This is the revised brand new version of the Mazda CX-5 in Newground trim, which is kind of like an army green grey sort of colour. You've got new bits of aluminium going on down here. It's kind of an aluminium colour anyway. We have revised headlight surrounds, a little bit of tweaks to the grille. There's also brighter green. Little hints of something different here. Available in 2 litre and 2.5 petrol engines. They're the ones you're probably going to want to go for. There is diesel options also. There's one thing Mazda do, it's make good looking, eye-catching cars. Just looking at that side on, the sharp angles, the roof line, just the way the nose protrudes out, really good looking. So the new version now also gets more silver aluminium style trim here. The rear lights are slightly different. Name me a better looking car in this segment. It's right up there with anything Lexus are producing, visually anyway, and they make some stunning looking cars too. To me it actually looks like there's slightly more legroom going on, whether that's designed from the seat backs or just how far the thigh support part of the rear seat just protrudes. Feels a little bit airier in there. And the fact that there's not huge amounts of change in the cabin, yes, there's bits of bright green inserts around the air vents. It suggests that maybe Mazda just feel, do you know what, it's not broke, it's still really stylish, it's still so well built, still oozes quality, let's leave it alone. So there's no changes to your climate control. Infotainment system is still as you were, nice and wide though, no improvement or change to the graphics. Again, everything looks very well thought out, very well stitched, stuck together. The same Mazda interior jog wheel is here for navigating through many of your settings and your modes. Analog vibes, still the name of the game in your instrument display. I kind of like it though, do you know what? There's room for retro vibes in cars these days. Film a car review in Ireland, they said, so I'm inside the CX-5 because it's absolutely bucketing down out of nowhere. This wasn't forecast. So there's 3 new trims available for the car. I'm not sure about the green mixed with the kind of classier leathers and stuff and the nice brushed plastics. It's quite bright and you kind of go, what's the story with that? Like, did you buy them in Halfords and just stick them on? It's more subtle outside the car. I love the colour. It's really, really good looking. It's kind of got this just deep green colour to it. It's quite like the Audi Q2 I reviewed on the channel last year. Kind of similar vibes, but the alloys in this car, the high polish on them, they look really, really tasty. I think they've also managed to get the kind of size of the car right. Like, it's big, but it doesn't feel huge. So if you're someone who doesn't want to drive what some people would call a big tank, you know, it's still got plenty of space inside, but it isn't that massive car on the road, so that might be a thing to consider. They've done stuff like put plastic, waterproof, rubber sort of underbody on the boot space. I think what they're kind of going for here is people who like a bit of adventure, a bit of outdoors. They're trying to maybe target people into the cars that way. The CX-5 makes up nearly 30% of Mazda sales around the world, so it is a really big model for them. I just want to kind of float today because, yeah, have a look at this. Like, this is pretty bad. Sort of weather. This is what reviewing a car in Ireland a few weeks away from the start of summer is like. It's absolutely buckling down. I was trying to the door of the car open to get some shots on the inside and it's just drenched. Absolutely drenched. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, there are some diesel options. This is actually one of them. So you've got 150 brake horsepower. The second diesel engine is 184 brake horsepower. The petrol is the most powerful one. So you've got a 2 litre and a 2.5. The most powerful is 194 brake horsepower. And like any Mazda engine, it needs to be wound up to get the performance out of it. That will then result in higher energy, fuel consumption. But the diesel one is actually nice and torquey, engaging to drive. You'd barely know it's a diesel because it's fairly quiet, and it'll do in and around 6 litres per 100 kilometres. And you can get an all-wheel drive version if you go for the diesel too. You can get a 6-speed manual and an automatic. I love when family cars feel like they've been designed by people with families as well. So the door on the back of the car opens at a proper right angle. It just makes life easier with kids and getting their seats in and their scooters in. If you got the dog in the boot and the boot's full of something else, the boot is over 500 litres in capacity as well, and they've redesigned it slightly so that when you load things in, the floor is fully flat if you have all the seats down to give you extra cargo space. If you got a caravan, you like your summer holidays, you can tow up to 2 ton on the back braked. Zircon sand is this colour. I'm not sure if the video or the photographs really do it justice. It's kind of like a rich pastel green. It's not army green, it's kind of like a creamier sort of a colour. I don't know how to describe it. Some people will say it looks like a newborn's nappy, and other people will really love the colour. It's just kind of one of two options. It's also meant to look like zircon sand, a mineral which is also used in foundry castings, and Mazda was the first company to introduce resin coated sand casting in the 50s. So somebody in marketing said, let's remind people that we've been around a long time because we're a reliable brand, which they are. This particular model, the Newground version, will cost you about €43,000 if you go for the 19s and the colour. You can start at mid-30s, you can keep going till 60 grand if you want automatic transmissions and even bigger wheels and all kinds of things. But it actually comes very well spec'd as standard in terms of safety. So you've got frontal collision, you've got blind spot, you've got rear cross traffic monitoring. Reversing out of a driveway or something and there's a car approaching from left or right, or a pedestrian, the car will warn you of that. And actually, if you go for the manual, which will keep the cost down, and you go for the diesel, which will bring it back up again, it's actually quite a fun car to drive. And if anything, driving the revised CX-5 this week has actually reminded me that there's life in the old diesel dog yet. Particularly if you love punchy torque, you're doing the mileage, that's very important obviously. And this, combined with a manual box, actually is a car that wants to be driven on. And if you want your tank to have a range of about 700 kilometers when you jump into it, this is probably the only way you're going to manage to do that. Get a diesel. I couldn't get out of the car much today. The rain, I left it for a second day thinking, it'll be grand tomorrow. It's worse. So most of this review is being filmed inside the car today. The outside shots that I got were literally a minute before it started to rain. There was no sign it was going to happen. And now it just hasn't stopped for 2 days. So thank you for watching this review of the CX-5 from Mazda. If you do have any comments or questions, maybe you owned one in the past, you got some actual feedback from ownership, always very helpful for people looking at the car, trying to shortlist it. Any help that you could give maybe from your own ownership perspective would be deadly. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe if it's your first time here. Thank you very much for watching.